Hello and welcome to the Runners World podcast with me, Rick Pearson.
And me, Ben Hobson.
Today we're talking about Hyrox, the latest fitness trend taking the endurance world by storm.
Dun, dun, dun,
It's here. It's here.
Yeah, it's actually been going a while, but it's definitely more and more running friends have been doing it and have been talking about how integral running is to the event, rather than looking at fitness and thinking that looks like a intimidating fitnessy thing, like a CrossFit throwing barbells around. And as we talked to Christian, the founder of Hyrox, it's the running is at the core of this event.
I love that. I feel like I could be this kind of David and Goliath. I could be that kind of figure of like, he's going to be no good, and then maybe actually I'd be okay.
You see, this is it. People will be like, this guy can't push a sled for anything,
and they'd be right. But then maybe on the run,
but you'd be nailing them.
See you, mate.
See you later.
So it's a good leveler, isn't it, on that front?
Great
Good leveler.
Yeah, an interesting event indeed. Certainly, one that will help people get their strength and conditioning in line. I mean, we say all this having never done it.
But it feels like that, doesn't it?
And I'm keen to do one once I've got less injured.
Well, we do get onto the idea that it could potentially be an Olympic event before too far in the future. So I mean, it's one to get on your radar, and that's what this podcast is about.
Yes.
Finger is on the button. Latest fitness trends. Here's what you need to know. Boom.
Great. How have you been?
I've been very well, thank you. Yeah. Ticking over with some races. Got a few on my radar actually.
Oh, hello.
Because I was up in Edinburgh recently, and Edinburgh's a great city, and they do I'm going to get the title wrong, but I think it's called like the Hills of Edinburgh, or like the 12 Hills of Edinburgh or something.
Yeah.
And that's in June next year, so keen for that, and also keen for an event called The Drop, which some listeners may be aware of. But you kind of you turn up at the race centre, then you get blindfolded, put in the back of a van, and driven 10 or 15 miles up to you.
Right.
And then no GPS, no compass,
phones,
you can't ask for help. I think you might maybe get a kind of terrible handwritten map they give you.
Right.
And the first person back to the start wins.
Where's this? This is the Midlands, is it not? Birmingham or something?
The Birmingham's one coming up, but
right.
there were various ones. There's one in York, there's actually a London one in March.
So local knowledge is good.
Local knowledge is key, I think, yeah.
That's interesting.
Quite fun, I think. Quite fun.
That's a nice concept.
Nice concept, isn't it? Yeah. Bit orienteering, a little bit Barclay-esque because you're kind of getting stitched up a bit, but also only 10 or 15 miles. So like,
can't be that. You can't get terribly lost.
Obviously, it could be a lot longer than that, couldn't it? But it's been going for a while, a little like Hyrox, but I feel like it's now becoming something that is like, there's multiple events.
Yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. I like to hear that.
So,
that's good. Yeah. Great stuff.
Yeah. So maybe you can do the drop together.
Or Hyrox.
Oh, mate, I'd be up for Hyrox, actually.
I'd be quite interested to see you and me at Hyrox.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
Because you would nail me on the runs, but I think I could probably...
You'd outlift.
I'd strength you.
Yeah, it would be good, mate. And I feel like
it might be the only time I'd ever get close to beating you, because I'm not beating you in a running race, that's for sure.
I think you'd be a good Hyrox athlete, mate.
No, you like the gym. I think you've got that capabilities.
Yeah, but there's a sort of limit to what a sort of 70-kilogram man can do.
Hey, look at Kipchoge. Don't you limit? He's smaller than you. Don't you limit him?
90 minutes limited.
Yeah, come on.
And I like that. I'll be trying to channel that in the Hyrox
nice.
arena. Right, should we get on our guest then?
Yeah, let's do it.
Guest of the week, here in the studio. Guest of the week, sometimes on the phone. Could be an athlete, could be a physio, or a complete unknown.
Well, our guest this week is the founder and CEO of Hyrox, the latest fitness trend to take the endurance world by storm. Christian Toekze, welcome to the Runners World podcast. Thanks very much for your time and coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Before we begin and talk about Hyrox, could you give us a sense of what your professional background was before you founded Hyrox?
Yeah, I'm basically almost 30 years in the sports industry, and especially I was involved in classical endurance sports. So I created cycling events, triathlon events, and running events. So I'm coming from the, let's say, traditional endurance world. Before I had the idea to create something in fitness, which was Hyrox. So I was doing this since 1995, so quite full on.
Yeah, good experience.
Yeah. Knows how to put on an event.
Yeah.
What is it about Hyrox, do you think, that has appealed to people so much? Do you think that, because we want to get into the running part of it and how integral the running element is to the event, because it seems to be such an important part, but What is it about the combination of running plus the sort of other activities? What is it about these combo that's it's so appealing to people?
No, I think it sits in the sweet spot, as you rightly say, between running and strength workouts. I think it's a combination, especially the training. The training is fun. It's not super time consuming. It's totally fine if you do 1 hour sessions. You don't need to do 3-4 hour shifts like in triathlon or in cycling or even long running. You train your whole body as well, very well rounded. Plus the combination of this new nature of Hyrox events because we are indoors. So it's a different kind of experience. You can't compare it to an outdoor event. It's much more condensed, comprised. It's a different kind of energy. And I think, the combination of all of that is why it's getting so popular in the world.
In terms of like how you first came up with the idea, so you'd come from this, as you say, a kind of classical endurance event background. How did the sort of light bulb moment happen when you were like, Hyrox, that's what the world needs?
Apparently, I come from this endurance world. Everything has like a story or evolution behind it. So everything I did, I always actively also do it. I try to do it. I'm not good, not really crazy good or whatever, but I participate in all our events because I think that's the best way to get the feeling and the experience of what can we do better and how do people receive the event. So I did marathon running, but I'm way too heavy for long distance running. I'm an okay runner, but I got a lot of problems with my knees and my Achilles, etc. when I did training for it. It's not the event; it's always the training because that's what you That's what you basically do 3, 4, 5 times a week, 6 times a week. I got it. Then I got into cycling, which I enjoyed a bit more because you have this team aspect, a bigger team aspect of because of drafting. And, but it's very, very time consuming. And if you live in a big city like London Hamburg is super flat. So you ride every day, you ride the same loop. Yeah. Because there are not actually a lot of options. So, and you have to do 3-4 hour shifts to get reasonable training in. So I had a young family at the time, kids and everything. I thought, it takes too much time. It's too complicated. And when I did the 1,400 times the same bike loop, maybe I'd try something different. Then I got into triathlon, which I really enjoyed because it's apparently a more higher variation movement, though it's very much just endurance. But I had to figure out this is even more complex in training. You have to find the pool, you need wetsuits, and then you have to, after the pool, you should get on the bike, and it's even more time consuming. And so I always wanted to create something that hits the sweet spot of how much time do I need to put into the training, that I train every part of my body. I have strength training and endurance training combined. Then because I was always a gym person, and you are in this business, you start to look around, what is missing? Is there something that the world or no one has ever done? Provide to people. And then it struck me like 7-8 years ago when I started to look into more and more research about gym membership and fitness membership and why are so many people a member in a gym? And then, apparently there was nothing existing which the majority of gym members are doing every day in the gym. So competition that is really designed around these elements and what most people do in training. And that's a funny thing because when everyone talked about training in gyms, everyone has the barbell in mind. It's all about strength training and lifting heavy weights. And every gym concept before Hyrox was always approaching gym training from the strength angle. Like CrossFit, or it's all about lifting heavy weights, throwing barbells around. When I did my research, I went into all these classical membership gyms. 90% 90% of these people don't do that.
Yeah.
They use the cardio floor, stepper, runner, whatever they do there, but it's all these cardio machines, and then they go to the functional fitness floor and they use some dumbbells and they do body weight workouts.
Yeah.
And I thought, okay, that's interesting. So apparently there's an event, a competition missing that is a real mass participation competition. So CrossFit apparently is an interesting, exciting training methodology, but that's one part of the story, but it never was a mass participation event, a live event. You can do it in your gym and you can compare online results, but the whole approach doesn't work, what we consider as mass participation. And I know and knew because of my background that this is a very interesting and compelling part of endurance sports. The best runners in the world are doing something on the same day like very average one.
Yeah.
They run the London Marathon. And that creates this very unique experience for everyone.
Yeah.
You feel like an athlete, you feel like a pro athlete. I mean, you have 100,000 of people lining the streets, cheering you on, and you are a 4-hour runner. I mean, and that I thought this was always very compelling and exciting. And then, and then the idea was to create something in fitness that works like it's a narrative of marathon running or triathlon, but of course totally designed around what most of the people do in the gym.
So on that format, if for anyone who doesn't know, what is the Hyrox format? What does the event look like?
Yeah, Hyrox is a combination of running, strengths, and functional fitness workouts. So you always run a kilometer before you enter a workout station.
Right.
You have to complete, and then you go on and you run the second kilometer, and then you do another workout. So in the end, you have completed 8 1-kilometer runs and 8 workouts. And that's, let's say, that's a parkour or a circle training which you have to complete from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
And it's quite a long strength endurance test, apparently. So the average time is 1 hour, 40 minutes.
Right.
So it's very different to the traditional world in training, which is usually hit very short, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, super intense. This is an endurance strength competition.
Yeah.
So you...
it's sort of lunges and sled pulls and ball throws, and it's all that sort of, as you say, functional stuff rather than like large barbells. And I think that in terms of what appeals to runners is, as you talked about, a lot of that stuff is what people do in the gym as their conditioning for running. So this is why I think this event will appeal and does appeal to a lot of runners. Is that there's running in there, great tick. Yeah, love a bit of running, and now I'm actually doing what I do in the gym anyway.
The reason to put so much running in was very simply the fact you just described. Running is the most popular sport in the world. The biggest movement in the world, because everyone can run. It's easy to do. You can run everywhere. You have amazing events from all distances, right? From 5Ks to marathon, ultra marathon runs. So for me, it was clear it has to be based on running. So our whole approach to the fitness, to this new fitness competition, was from the running angle and not from the strength angle.
Right. Yeah.
And then we added all the functional movements. And there's a reason why the movements are what the movements are, to make it really mass appealing and mass doable. We decided to only go with natural movements.
Right.
So natural movements means everyone can do it technically. Everyone can push a sled. Even if you have never pushed a sled, you can do it. You might not be good at it and not fast, but you can't do it wrong. Whilst other, especially strength fitness competitions, are based around unnatural movements. So very complex movements where you need a lot of skills, a lot of training.
Yeah.
First of all, in the first place, do it, but also secondly, to not get injured.
Yeah.
And that doesn't really make it a mass participation, a mass inclusive event, because it's too specific and too difficult, and you need too many skills to be able to do it. So Hyrox is exactly in the ballpark like running.
Yeah.
Everyone can do Hyrox, but of course it's way more complex than a running event because you have so many different movements and tests.
It's time for an advert. And now back to the podcast.
In terms of the kind of body type you need to succeed at Hyrox, are we talking it's people who look more like we might think of the traditional runner builds and not particularly muscled, or are people who are doing this actually kind of coming from a lifting,
The hybrid athlete world is that, if you wanted to coin a phrase.
Exactly. Yeah.
It's a new breed of athletes. They definitely don't look like a runner, and they don't look like a strength CrossFit athlete or strength athlete. So they are not as bulky, but they are way more muscular than a traditional runner.
Yeah.
But they're also not super heavy. So they are very lean. I always compare them with racehorses.
Right. Okay. Nice.
A little bit of that. I have to say, now our elite level athletes usually all come from a running background and not from a strength background.
Yeah.
There you go. There's hope for us yet, Ben.
No, but you're naturally too heavy. You have to carry too many muscles around the run track.
Yeah.
So they usually have like a middle distance running background in college, stuff like that. But they always have been a little bit too strong, too heavy to be super competitive on the highest level.
Yeah.
And all like 400, 800 meter runners, I think, have an amazing foundation for Hyrox because they are traditionally stronger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's more that background or rowing, more.
Yeah, the large powerful endurance athletes.
Yeah,
exactly.
That makes sense.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the sort of taking your experience with the mass partition events and bringing a community element, but also the sort of viewership and making it an event that people can come and watch. It's contained in one spot. I mean, because that's probably one of the major elements within running that people have struggled with. You want to watch a marathon; it's very hard.
Right.
It's very hard to watch the whole thing unless you watch on TV.
Yeah.
You can go to a track event; that's very exciting, but it's not quite. Doesn't sometimes if you're watching the 10,000 meters, there are elements within the 10,000
it's 25
meters.
laps.
It's 25 laps where it ebbs and flows with excitement depending on the race. How did you want to? Because this is a challenge with running and taking something like the event, making it interesting for the participants, but also as a crowd. How important is that?
It's super important. And we have two elements. We have the elite sport that is growing now, which becomes a spectator sport, which works, as you said, like a track event. So we have grandstands at our main events. We have 5,000-6,000 people watching the best 15 male athletes battling it out. The good thing is, because it's this mix of running and workouts, so the focus is on the workouts more than on the running, because it's happening in the middle between the grandstands, so where everyone can see every second of the action. Because of always this mix of running and workouts, they're stretching out a little bit the athletes. So the leaders are going on the run already. You still have the other guys fighting with the sleds, for instance, or girls. And when the last one is going on the run course, it's not a long time before the leaders are coming back to the next workout. So it doesn't have this, as you said, these 15 laps of running where everyone is preparing everything for the last 3 laps when the sprint is happening, which is like a traditional Olympic 10,000 meter decision. They don't break world records at the Olympics. It's all a tactical play here. I think that makes it exciting to watch. The other part is the mass participation element. And that I think is amazing because, and I have to say, when I started to think about the concept, the idea in the beginning was not indoors. It was a traditional outdoor concept. You go to a public place and you build everything up there. And then I realized, okay, it reduces the season dramatically where you can do it. And then I figured out, okay, there's all these convention centers or massive arenas, and especially convention centers that are huge and no one is using them for sport events. It's all for classical trade shows, but they have a lot of empty days, and they are done. They are made for mass participation gatherings, right? So the permits, the permit process is very easy. You negotiate with these guys. So I know what the weather is. I don't know it will not rain. I don't know there will be no wind. It's pleasant for the spectators to hang out for 3 or 4 hours because they also know it's safe. And the interesting thing that this created is that I think we are the only mass participation event where your friends and family, when they watch you, they follow you the whole race from basically every second you're doing it, because you always run around in laps. And then you go to the workout station, and the spectators can walk from workout station to workout station and follow you. And they are 2 meters away from you, like surviving on the ladders or whatever. So it creates a fully different kind of experience for both the athletes and the spectators, the family and friends. Because as you rightly say, when I was running the marathon, my family could see me one time. At one point on the course for 5 seconds.
Yeah, and you probably don't see them wave. It's very easy to not hear what them calling out in London.
Yeah. So that creates an amazing different kind of atmosphere and intensity between athletes and spectators, because we started waves. You're not starting with all 10,000 people at the same time. That wouldn't work logistically. So you feel more like an individual professional athlete rather than a number in an individuum in like 40,000 people running off for the marathon. Or on a triathlon, you go away on your bike and then they don't see you for 180 kilometers.
Christian, in terms of the male-female ratio, is this something that's been popular among women and men? Is it largely male? Is it largely female at the minute? And would you like to change any of that?
No, we are very, very proud that we are almost 50-50.
That's great.
Yeah.
Men, women, which I have never seen in all the other products I was involved with. It's always like 80% men, 20% women. In fitness, the interesting part is that when you look at the global membership, gym membership, I think the women are leading a little bit.
Right.
There are a little bit more women that are a member in gyms than men, which is interesting. So it appeals to women. That's where they go and do sport. And the other part is because we start in waves. Though an event day is comprised of men's competition, women competition, doubles, etc. But when the women are going off in your wave, it's only women. We're not mixing this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can say it's a women event. It's part of the full event. And I think women enjoy that or appreciate it. It's not to be in the start tunnel next to some testosterone.
Yeah. Fine. Yeah.
Pushing you away when the heart rate goes off, etc. So it creates this atmosphere. The women are amongst themselves, but it's still a mixed event. You know, you're not just a women's event where they do weird stuff.
Yeah.
With a makeup station in the finish zone, etc.
Right.
Classically female events, which I think many women don't want either.
Yeah. And there's a relay as well.
So I think that is that very unique combination of controlled environment that also makes it appealing for women.
And there's relay mixed teams as well, and there's like different formats so to encourage different people to be able to do different. So if you have a very good runner who doesn't want to do any sleds, you can mix it up and people do different bits, right? Is that correct? Yeah.
Instead of doing, which I don't believe at all in it, so it's instead of doing a half Hyrox, a sprint Hyrox.
Yeah, so Olympic distance sprints.
I said, no, we don't do it. It's always exactly the same distance. It's like a marathon.
Yeah.
It's always exactly the same order of events, but we lowered the barriers to entry because we have a double version where you do everything together with a partner, or a relay where you do, that's the smallest barrier to do it, where you share the whole competition with 3 other teammates. 4.
If you were if you were like talking now to our audience direct, like all these runners out there who are, you know, they do 5K at the weekend or they're all the way through to marathon, what would you say was the sort of the start point for training for a Hyrox? How different would it look to what they're doing right now? Or is it, because running is so central to Hyrox, is it actually the leap into that event isn't that big?
Well, I think, of course, apparently they should start doing more also the strengths elements, body weight elements, mixing into the run training. First of all, I think it's a very interesting complementary thing for runners to do, let's say, especially in the off season. It prevents injuries. There's a lot of science about it that runners forget a little bit to train upper body and other parts of the body because they think it's all about the kilometers they have to put in. It's all about volume, running, which I think there is evidence that this is not, in the long run, the best way to do it. Especially a well-rounded training like Hyrox can be a very nice complementary thing you do, and you still need to run, right? You don't, you're running at all. And of course, Hyrox training, that's the biggest difference. It's always like compromised running. So you don't run, usually the training is not you run 10 kilometers and then you do the workout. Our training is always you run 800 meters or a kilometer or 400 meters and then you do a workout. And you go back on the treadmill, you run another kilometer and you do another workout. So that trains you this kind of compromised running. So you have, after a workout, you have lactate in your muscles and in your legs, and you have to still be able to run. I know in triathlon, you somehow have to train this as well to switch from cycling to running, and it's always hard, the first kilometer or 2 kilometers. In Hyrox, you have to do this all the time, again and again and again. And sometimes, trust me, especially runners, when they do the sled and then they have to run, you're an amazing runner, you're wobbling, your legs. But that's amazing conditioning and training also for your running strengths. It's 10K runs, whatever, which you then do maybe in summertime. So it's easy. Of course, if you are a pure runner, you can start. I mean, apparently you should go to gyms. There are a lot of gyms all around, especially in the UK, that offer Hyrox classes and training. You can mix in, or you start change the part of your run training a little bit where you just, and I do this also, you run 800 meters or a kilometer, and then you do, instead of continue run, you do push-ups, lunges, burpees. And then you run another kilometer, which is the simplest and easiest thing to start with. When you run around Hyde Park, instead of just running 5 kilometers, you do also every kilometer, you do some 20 burpee broad jumps.
There you go.
Voila, you have done your first Hyrox.
There you go. It's that easy.
Have you heard, Christian, were you aware of something called Oregon circuits that are little, as you described, they're kind of hard intervals followed by body weight exercises, and I guess they started in Oregon, which is obviously a big hub of running. It's very different to Hyrox, I think, because of the kind of gym type exercises you do. But was that something that you were kind of were conscious of? Because there are parallels.
It's a very interesting story. I think 1972, when the Olympic Games were held in Munich, there was a big campaign in Germany about general fitness for people, and what they did is in every park in Germany they called it, what was the name? You can't translate it. It was Trim dich,
right?
Also get fit, and they built stations. So there was a 5 kilometer run around the park.
Right.
Via 800 meter every kilometer, they built stations for pull-ups, for push-ups.
Right. That's great.
It was all across Germany, and it was basically the same idea. It was Hyrox training. Why? Because from a sports science standpoint, it's almost proven that this is the healthiest way of training. And they did it, and then it died. And then the people started. Then Arnold Schwarzenegger came, and people went into the room.
He's got a lot to play. Arnold's got a lot to answer for.
He's got a lot to answer for,
Yeah, and suddenly that was a new way of being healthy or whatever. Like
Yeah, of course.
pumping iron. And now the world goes back to where everything was already for hundreds of years, because that's usually how human beings were training. And now the gyms are throwing these big machines out of the gym, then out of the gyms again, and they put barbells in and mat balls, and it's all about body weight. And so it's interesting how everything goes in cycles a little bit. But I think that's very similar to the Oregon.
Yeah, it sounds it, yeah.
And I don't think we are different, because this is spot on in training. Of course, if you want to absolutely simulate Hyrox, you should go into a gym, because you need a sled, you need a ski erg, you need a lot of equipment. But as I just said, if you run around Hyde Park and you do every kilometer, you do 20 burpee broad jumps or 30, it's a very proper Hyrox training. And so you don't need necessarily to be always go to the gym. And that's what I love about it, because like running, and that's a difference also to cycling and triathlon. Hyrox, you can train wherever you are. If you travel, usually every hotel has a gym, right? At least with a treadmill, and they have some dumbbells, etc. Or you just go into the park and you do it. So it has the same. It's in the same way accessible like running.
That's a good point. That you mentioned the 1972 Olympics, and I was wondering, is there a future in which we could see Hyrox as like an Olympic sport? You know, could it be in LA? Because it feels like it has that kind of excitement, and as Ben was suggesting, a kind of it's good. It's good for viewing as well.
I very much think so, because there are a lot of reasons why it would make a lot of sense for the Olympics to consider this. Taking all the politics aside, how to get into the Olympics.
Yeah, good luck.
And I think LA is unfortunately too close, because I think every Olympic host can decide on test events.
Right. Okay.
They integrate. So in Paris it was breakdance or B dance, which is now out again. And I think LA has chosen lacrosse.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so stuff that is popular in the US.
Yeah.
Nowhere else really. And there's a third one, but they decided on this already. But Brisbane can be we just did our event in Brisbane, which was very successful.
I was going to say, is Hyrox popular in Australia? Do you think?
Very popular. We just started 12 months ago, and it's cracking it. It was first event ever in Brisbane, and it's sold out. The one-day event was 5,300 people doing it. So that can be a reasonable goal. Why?
Yeah.
I think now when you look at the Olympics and they take everything, modern sports, modern popular movements, surfing, skateboard, gym fitness is the mega trend of all trends in the world of sport. There are over 220 million people that are a member in the gym, and in every country in the world. It's not a sport that is only done. Lacrosse, I guess, no one plays lacrosse in China. Probably, I don't know. But fitness is everywhere. Fitness is popular in China. Fitness is popular in the US. Fitness is popular in South America. So that is a very important aspect. And we put it into a format on the league level, which is amazing to watch on television. From start to finish is less than 1 hour. We have singles, we have doubles, we have relay competitions. You can do a lot of with the same setup, with the same amount of athletes. All these aspects are important for Olympics. You can do quite a lot of competitions, and you can create a lot of airtime. And now with the growing popularity of fitness, and everyone can relate to that because everyone goes into a gym. So I think it will make very good TV ratings for the Olympics as well. So all these aspects are important when they look at it.
There we go.
So yes, why not?
Yeah, why not?
I like it as an idea.
It's getting very political with federations.
Sure.
Yeah.
Of course.
But I'm pretty sure that fitness will be part of the Olympic Games in whatever form. With Brisbane going forward. And like I said, LA is in less than 4 years. I don't know the procedures here, and I think it's probably too late. But
well, we look forward to
28 is a reasonable target.
Yeah,
I agree. Yeah,
I agree. Yeah, completely. Christian, thank you so much for joining us on the Runners World podcast. Great to hear more about Hyrox and how runners can and easily get involved in the format, and it might save a few people who neglected their strength and conditioning over the years. It might be the thing that they need to get them back in the gym. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me on your podcast.
So that brings us to the end of this week's Runners World podcast. A huge thanks to our guest, Christian, and to you, of course, for listening.
You can subscribe to Runners World magazine. Please Google Runners World UK subscription. You'll find it on the Hearst website. I think it's something like £1 an issue at the moment.
What? It's madness.
It's crazy deals. So yeah, please do subscribe to the magazine if you haven't already. Subscribe to this podcast just to make sure that it arrives on your listening device, probably a phone, whenever you need it. And thank you again for listening. You will hear from us next week.